Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Decoding Product Security. My name is Dvir Reznik from C2A Security, and today we have a special guest. Excited to welcome Andreas Herzig from Deloitte. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Dvir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us, taking the time. I know you're awfully busy. First of all, congratulations are in order. 33 years at Deloitte, right?
I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It makes me look a little bit old, I think, but I can say I'm very experienced.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much. And again, congratulations. It's an amazing milestone. Um, I wanted to touch base when we're talking here about product security. We always try to address it from different angles. And right now, it seems that regulation is is a big topic. Like everywhere I'm reading, there's a lot of reports, a lot of news on regulations from different markets. And we're here to talk about the Cyber Resilience Act, the CRA. So how do you get involved? Like when was the first time, like, for example, that you heard about the CRA and how does it addresses your day-to-day?
As you can imagine, as Deloitte, we are pretty close to the regulators. So we hear a lot of discussions. Should we do that? Should we not do that? It's always, the regulations are not always a good thing because it sometimes hinders efficiency and
Innovation.
to kind of select technologies or processes you would like to go for within your company. But sometimes they're just necessary. And we have seen that in automotive already with UN ECE regulations, where it was urgently necessary because the vehicles become more and more a software-defined product. And software always means that it can be attacked from outside. You always need functionality to update the software, to kind of close gaps which enable hackers to get into the vehicle and probably take over the remote steering of the vehicle. That's why it was urgently necessary to regulate the cybersecurity of vehicles, which did come into force a couple of years ago with UN ECE R155 and R156. And the European government has just was just going a little bit further with the new regulation right now, the Cyber Resilience Act, because it's covering all connected products. And as you can imagine, it's not only vehicles which are in danger to be hacked by cyber attacks, it's also medical devices. Even if you think about your the facilities you have at home, it could be your fridge, it could be your vacuum, the cameras you use to protect your estate. It can be hacked. It needs to be protected, just to make sure that to protect our privacy, and at the end, it's not even protecting our freedom.
No, I totally agree with that. I think that right now, to me at least, what intrigues me is that I think this entire regulatory push is coming not necessarily from sort of within the companies, because companies that are producing or manufacturing their own products have probably some sort of regulation and standards already in place, whether for development or for ops, pre-market or post-market, depending on the industry. But what we're seeing is that the regulators are now putting a lot of focus on the supply chain, on how do you address the fact that you have maybe a product that someone is selling, whether it's a car, whether it's a medical device, that the manufacturer is not the sole producer of that specific device. You have multiple stakeholders, multiple vendors, suppliers that are putting stuff, hardware and software into that, which makes it even more complex. So I think this is partly why we're seeing that increased regulation, right?
You're addressing the right topic here, because you see, we have as the kind of end producers, the companies which bring the product in the market, like the OEMs or the big medical device companies. They have cyber security policies. They are aware of the reputational risks as well as of the financial risks we're exposed to if we don't take care for cyber. In some cases, they may be already in a good shape. In some cases, probably not so good, and they need to be to do more to be compliant with the Cyber Resilience Act now. But a big risk, as you say, is the supply chain, because if we go again to automotive, 70-80%, for sometimes even more of the software in a vehicle are coming through the supply chain in the vehicle. Right now being changed by the most OEMs, so that's why they've built big software factories, but it's still a fact. So how could you make sure? Because the supplier won't provide you with the source code.
Exactly.
He says, that's my intellectual property. I'm not going to hand it over to you.
Like a black box.
It's a black box for you. So how would you make sure that the cybersecurity you have implemented for the own software, for the own parts of the products you produce, can also be implemented in the supply chain? So that's a big question, and just by a regulation like the Cyber Resilience Act, that's probably helpful, but it's not all. So the end producer, so the end of the supply chain, before a product comes into the market, need to take care for cybersecurity in their supply chain. It can be done through a couple of measures, I would say. One thing is just talk to your suppliers, convince them, for example, that you can have access to their source code to conduct a couple of tests. Like we have developed, for example, a couple of source code KPIs, which can easily be tested at every and automatically be tested if you have a piece of source code. And we are a third party. So for example, a supplier would probably have a smaller problem or a small issue to provide us with the source code than his customer. So that's one. The other thing is just make it part of the contractual agreements with their supplier. What kind of
supplier?
With a supplier, yes. What kind of measures are we forced to implement? We have a couple of assessment methodologies like TSAX and all things in automotive, similar things in our sectors, but that's still very high level. So I think the contractual agreements, even assessments of suppliers of the cybersecurity of suppliers, that's something we also do for our clients. So we go through the supply chain, assess a couple of suppliers, some of them just virtually by sending them a questionnaire, they answer some questions. Some of them by kind of getting more intelligence from outside. How is the threat to this supplier or to this product? Some of them we even visit to go deeper into the production of the supplier and assess the measures they have implemented to assure cybersecurity by design parts of the products they deliver to our customer.
Yeah, these are excellent points, I think, and this is really touches on, I think, some of the key points that suppliers and also the manufacturers themselves need to pay attention to when they're starting to work now, or they continue to work and validate their supply chain, because eventually the buck now stops with them, so they need to understand what's inside of it. And these are some excellent points on how to make that happen. Now, for closing, what would you say are like the major regulatory trends? Like if you need to pick 1-2 things that will shape the regulatory landscape in the next, 24 to 36 months, what do you think would that be? What you do point out to?
You're not talking about the tariffs, I guess.
That's a separate episode.
That's probably another topic.
Yeah. I'll need a
No,
longer time though.
I think the Cyber Resilience Act is definitely one of those regulations, because in 2026 the regulatory bodies start to assess the cybersecurity of the product. So then it really comes into force. So the regulation comes into force or came into force already last December. But in June 2026, you will see that the pressure is rising dramatically, because if you have not implemented the measures needed, like security by design, vulnerability management, life product support over the whole life cycle, that's something which will bring you into trouble if it's not implemented, and it can be pretty expensive. So I would say the Cyber Resilience Act is definitely among those regulations, which will shape the regulatory landscape for the next couple of years. So still a long way to go till everything's implemented. And as you see, the world is changing. So we have this kind of unsafe world right now with different parties, not even reliable friends anymore. On sides. So we need to protect ourselves against digital attacks, and that's a big part of it. Another thing I would say is the NIS2 regulation. The Cyber Resilience Act is more focusing on products and product security. The NIS2 Act is going for the production facilities and the companies. Like the infrastructure companies. Imagine someone could take over or even stop all the power stations in your country.
That's a great point. I think that all of those convergence, like when you're talking about the different regulations that govern specific industries, like you say, well, I'm in automotive, so I'm pretty much covered. Like I have UNR 155, I'm doing SBOM, I'm doing TARA, I'm having the CRA and all the specific security measures that I'm doing with the supply chain. But wait, what about the infrastructure? That's like the electricity. So who's governing that? You have a whole set of standards and regulation over there. So this convergence is very challenging and going to be definitely interesting in the coming months and coming years to stay.
And imagine all those regulations do have an international component. We just talked about the European regulation. They're similar, or not always similar, sometimes similar, sometimes other regulations coming up in China, for example.
We haven't touched about that,
Which still not sure which direction the US will go. Probably stays volatile. Now it's an additional challenge.
Exactly. Now the US has the software supply chain for connected vehicles, which is basically a software ban on Chinese and Russian software. So that steers a lot of noise and waves. But we'll definitely, I do need to get you back on another episode, Andy. I think we have a lot to discuss. And obviously, with your expertise, you've been around this for so long, so you probably understand much more. And I'll be happy to get your insights on another episode. So thanks again for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Awesome.